What's up, everybody? It's time for episode 297 of Unlocking Your Inner Strength. Got the old school Champion's Choice personal training hat on. That was the very first business of Newell Strength and what would later become Newell Strength. Now, one of the ways that I've become one of the world's leading experts in fasting is that I'm very passionate about it. It's something I would be studying and applying in my own life as I do, even if I didn't have you guys to teach it to. I'm working on the second book this year regarding the panda diet. And although I may have been a little quiet about fasting lately, it's just because you go through lulls, studying different stuff on it, waiting till I have some new stuff to share with you guys. Panda will be coming back very shortly in March. Take a sip of my juice. Before I dive into what I want to talk about regarding fasting and the cacti or cactus and the camel, cool story to share with you. So last week, Tuesday morning, so in my 48-hour fast, woke up, wasn't planning on going hunting, but I went out because it was just a little bit warmer that morning. It was like 30 degrees. And I said, it'll be a good morning to go down there. So did some of my morning routine, went down to the blind down the creek right back here. Within 10 minutes, so I brought my light because I'm reading my book, I'm doing my journal, my journaling. I might as well leverage my time. It was still dark out. Finished doing that. 5 minutes into my meditation, I could make out some silhouettes. Nonetheless, needless to say, actually, it's not needless to say, I was successful. Let's call my buddy Richie, comes over, helps us take care of business. And it's the cycle of life, right? That is food that I honor that animal that me and my family will eat. Came from our land. But here's the cool thing I wanted to share with you. So you put the innards in the creek, right? You're not wasting anything. Let the other animals live off of it. So that was Tuesday. Got really cold after that. Creek kind of froze over. Innards are still sitting there. And I'm surprised as the week goes on. I'm like, wow, I'm surprised nothing come and eat this stuff yet. So Friday I come up, working in the garage office. Kids are eating lunch with Devin. Look out, I'm like, holy cow, that's a giant bald eagle right there, an American bald eagle, right on one of the branches. And I knew what it was doing. It was going to eat those guts, which was pretty awesome. So I got video of it. Maybe I'll put it up later. We got pictures. Kids were going crazy. We've seen a bunch of eagles down in the river, but never really on the creek. And it was just really neat to see the cycle of life, right? Meaning we shared a meal with this bald eagle, eating from the same animal. It's a really cool experience and really good for the kids to see that it's a cycle of life. We all share, right? And now that deer will become a part of me, a part of my family, right? So it's just a cool way to go about things, in my opinion. Now, I'm teaching a lesson to our members tonight. Part of that has to do with fasting. I want you to think of something. Fasting is 1,000% the way we are supposed to function. I don't care what anybody says. We are not supposed to be eating multiple times a day. You will not convince me otherwise. But think about a cactus. A cacti in a forest. That's what we have become like. A cacti in a forest. Where there's abundance. There's for the cacti, a lot of water. It's not designed to get all this feeding of water, this hydration all the time. The cactus is meant to be out in the desert. It's supposed to get very sparse and very infrequent feedings for it, right? Feedings, meaning when I'm talking about the hydration. That represents us. We've become, through modern consumerism and really being taught the wrong way to eat with the completely flawed model, especially the North American diet mentality, that we need to constantly consume calories in food. And I believe part of that is intentional to keep people less healthy than they otherwise should be, because when you're healthy, your mind is much sharper. You can live much more of a spiritual life. You become much more of a threat to the powers that be. They don't want free thinkers and free spirits. That's a different road for a different, maybe next week's podcast, because I love talking about that stuff. But we are designed to be like the cacti in the desert, not the cactus that we supplanted and put into the forest where it's just getting water all the time. And for us, think about food. And as well, I put the camel within this title. You all know the what do you call it? The fascination or the myth of, not the myth, that's the wrong word for it, but the legends of camel, how they can go for literally months without consuming water. Again, put food in that place. It's stored within their fat and within their hump, which is made up largely of fat. But they can go for long periods of time without getting this nutrient. Our bodies are the same way. So I made some notes here. Designed to fast. Most people suffer from food addiction. 1,000% if you look up the definition of addiction. And I always preface this when I teach the Panda. You have to realize that food is a drug. Food affects and the definition of a drug is something that affects the internal biochemical and hormonal environment of the body. So food does that, checks all the boxes. It's the most frequently consumed drug. If people viewed food as a drug, they would take a different approach to it. Now, some of the things with addiction, when I have people get off of eating so frequently and get to their more natural patterns, and there's a flip side to this in a second, there's a silver lining, I should say, because that's a scary proposition to people. There's a reason I have people start with fasting the way I do, which I'm not going to tell you here, but it builds their confidence, right? People don't want to go through that discomfort. Some of the things you'll see when you get people off eating 3, 4, 5 times a day, they're going to get headaches, they're going to get hangry, potentially brain fog, but these are all withdrawal symptoms. Unless you have a rare tumor within your body or reactive hypoglycemia, which is very rare, you're not suffering from low blood sugar when this happens. It is a withdrawal symptom from the drug of food. And I can almost guarantee you this, if you took a glucometer and fasted for a day and took your blood sugar level when you were feeling like you were crashing and getting low blood sugar. This is a lack of understanding on most people's parts of physiology. Just like insulin keeps sugar from going too high, glucagon, another hormone that we need to be elevated to lose body fat, keeps blood sugar from going too low. It's built into every one of us. There's no way around this. You ain't going to suffer from low blood sugar. So we are designed to fast, 1,000%. Now, the longer you practice this lifestyle, the more you break that addiction to food. The more you're going to crave natural foods, the more your ability to listen to if you're full or you still have more room in your belly for food is going to greatly improve. Cravings are going to go way down. Your dependency on food is going to go way down. You're not going to have to eat constantly. Fasting also solves the issue of what to eat. We want you eating foods that are natural, not products. Products is stuff was added to. What came from the earth? What came from the ground? That should be predominantly what you're eating, but that is secondary to following your fasting time. Because if you're following a longer fasting period and you're practicing a fasting-focused lifestyle, just by nature of what you're doing and fixing the hormones within your body, mainly insulin is the main trickle-down one that's going to affect everything else, you're not going to have the cravings to eat all these products and artificial foods, but you're not going to be able to because you're going to be eating much less frequently, and your capacity to eat is not going to be as great. Hopefully that makes sense. Here's another thing. Every time you fast and you put yourself into a state of hormesis, which is a low-level mild stress, you're building mental muscle. Every time you could snap your brain to a new level, you gain an advantage. One of the ways I always go in my mind, and now it's at mastery with fasting, right? And I'll explain that in a second. Especially when I first started with the longer fasting, was I'm building mental muscle every time I do this. And it gives me an advantage over the guy that's sitting across the table from me if there's a negotiation. So I do these role plays in my head, right? Because I know they're not willing to do that. I know they've never gone a day without food in their life. I mean, most people, that's terrifying to them. Most people in North America, I should say. Terrifying thought, but building mental muscle, which leads to mastery. You should be able to, so the second M of mind map, the first is motivation. I'm not going to tell you the other ones right now. There's 7 of them. The second one is mastery, which is prediction and response. Fasting makes it very easy to predict and respond when you're eating. You don't have to worry about how much you're eating when you follow the type of panda plan that I designed for people. The reason people can't stick with your typical diets, it's completely based on wrong thought as far as how physiology works. They're trying to affect the internal by cutting calories. Calories is really secondary. It's almost nonsensical to even focus on that once you begin fasting. And yes, people do have to get coached through this many times, but it is a natural thing to do. You could go off and do it on your own. See what happens. You'll probably be successful. But mastery is about prediction and response. Now, if you're following a typical North American diet and eating these smaller meals throughout the day, or whatever, you have much other stuff that could get in your way. You have chaos is going to happen, right? This is something called chaos planning, where it's going to throw you off track. And if you, God forbid, go out and eat, or you have a social plan, that's going to throw you off. If you travel, that might throw you off. So your ability to master a diet is almost nil. The closest I've seen with the diet, something I did myself, and I still incorporate into the panda, is called the cycle diet, but it takes an incredibly disciplined mind. Fasting does not take that, especially once you get into it. And last thing I want to talk about is food clutters your mind. Again, it's a drug. It clutters your energy channels in your mind. 1,000%. 2 weekends ago, we had our team retreat, and the next day, we went back to pick the kids up who were at my parents' house and celebrate my mom's birthday. So at the team retreat, the Canuck, one of our coaches, made breakfast. It was like a brunch. And of course I partake. I'm not a knucklehead like I used to be, as far as I can't do that, and that's what you get with the typical North American diet. I mean, I used to be so anal with going out to eat and going off plan. So, and I still get people ask me every week, is that okay for you to eat, Kyle? Like, can you eat this? I'm like, listen, that's a different lifetime ago. However, we ate the brunch. We went to my mom's to celebrate her birthday. Had a couple slices of pizza. Didn't go crazy. But on the way home from that, I was so tired. I was about to fall asleep. And I slept about 8 hours because we didn't have the kids. There wasn't a lack of sleep. It was just the drug effect of food. But it clutters your mind. You cannot think sharply when you're constantly eating. You cannot. And I challenge anybody, especially the types of foods most people eat, that are combining refined sugars and fats, that which is not found anywhere in nature, a combination of sugars and fats in quantities that are significant. You can't find that in nature. So that right away tells you that should be safe for a cheat meal. Like, I do believe you should be able to indulge in that stuff, and I do every week. But most people, that makes up the majority of their diet, and it really clutters the mind. You can think much sharper when your gut is empty, and your gut is your second brain. Majority of your neurotransmitters are found in your gut. That's why it's called the second brain. When it's constantly getting food coming in, you're going to be cluttered. You're not going to be able to think clearly. You're not going to be sharp. You're not going to be nearly as productive. So that is this episode on the cactus and the camel of fasting. You're more like the cactus and the camel than you think. As a society, we're like the cactus that's been supplanted and placed into the forest where there's plenty of water. The cactus is not designed for that. Just like you are not designed to eat many times a day. Not at all. Don't care what anybody says. That's not a natural thing, and I will debate anybody on that. But do what you want to do. You got to be into what you're doing to form a habit. That's what I got for you today. Keep an eye out for the next Panda Challenge. Will be coming out. We'll be doing that in March, so I'll be starting some ads on that soon, so you'll see them. Thanks for the support. Always appreciate you guys. Catch you later.